you very much, Stephanie. So thank you, everyone, for coming. I am Anthony Chirico, as she said, from Crestron Electronics. I'm the education rep for Crestron. So I cover all of New York State, pretty much. Downstate I don't cover, but all of upstate and western New York are my territory. So a brief overview and introduction. Obviously, I've been in AV for a while, as I'm in this position. But I've been in AV since 2001. I started off as a salesman at Stereo Advantage in Buffalo, New York, my hometown. And I have evolved and moved to Massachusetts, started to work in K through 12, also worked in higher ed, and now I work for a manufacturer. I have a computer information systems degree, so I also have the IT background as well, so it's perfect for this type of thing. So just the questions I have up there is perceptions. What do people think of the name Crestron? Anyone? So when you say something, shout it back. Pardon? Control, all right.
Integration.
It could also be bad perceptions.
Innovative.
Okay. Well, I appreciate those. A lot of people think we're that complex, expensive company. Is probably the biggest feedback I usually get about Crestron. And frankly, maybe at one time that was true. But that has really changed over the last 4 years, where we're doing a lot to actually offer low-cost solutions that even allow companies and universities to support themselves. So to talk about just a couple of solutions that we have out there that require no programming at all. They literally configure from a website that's hosted on the box itself. We have a simple transmitter and receiver. So it's HDMI VGA on a wall plate, single Cat5 connection to the receiver, HDMI out there. There's also an extra HDMI in, and it's basically a system you plug in, turns your system on, unplug, turns your system off. We have a bigger brother to that. It's also under the table mount, so it adds an HDMI to it. And we're all talking about things that are right around $1,000 or less. So most people don't ever believe that Crestron would make something below $1,000, and we have. We've been making classroom switchers now for a number of years, and we have a great line of them. They're all 4K now, to note. But what people don't realize is there's actually a program built onto them called AV Framework. AV Framework is a web program that you can log into the box and now actually configure, turn inputs on and off, change icons, set up the switcher, control an occupancy sensor, control your touch screen. It generates your GUI for you. So now this is all the various things that you need without having to actually have custom code. So schools and enterprises that maybe don't have the budget necessarily to always pay for those service calls can now get to a point of servicing themselves. So we have 3 models in our single display products. We have our 4K50, which is local in, local out. Our 100, which then adds an HD-based T out, so now if you need to go distance. And then the 150, which adds the 2 HD-based T inputs. So now if you also want to accept wall plates or other transmitters from around the room. We also have our larger guys, our new 250 and 350. So we've had the DMPS 300 in some iteration for a number of years. It's been one of our bread and butter units for years. But now we've just evolved it once again, even over the last year, to 4K. And then our second generation, which we've already started shipping, is our 250, 350, which now has our wireless presentation product built into it. So to get into it just a little bit, all of our outputs on our larger units are built in with scaling. So now if you're going to class capture or you're trying to go into other streaming solutions, you now don't have to also buy an extra scaler to handle that. It's built right into the box. Everything's HDCP 2.2. And this is really one of the differentiators of us versus a lot of our competition, is the fact that we are HDCP 2.2 on all of our inputs now across our board. Where that doesn't maybe make a difference today, it definitely will make a difference in a few years as more HDCP 2.2 devices come out. And I don't know any enterprise, whether it's university or company, that replaces their AV every year. So to stay with the times, this now allows you to get some longevity out of your system to move forward with 4K with HDCP 2.2. We have a built-in control subnet. The number one thing that networking teams love to say to people is, keep it off my network. So now this allows you to actually create your own closed network or control subnet right from the DMPS unit. So you can actually put a switch at the DMPS unit and power all of the other LAN stuff and programming right off of that. So it doesn't even touch the university's network at all if you didn't want it to. Or you could also have it where the DMPS is touching to the network so you can get reports from it, but everything else is actually on its own network. So you're not adding so many devices to the network. But what people don't realize is it also has an out-of-the-box web-based configuration utility as well. So that AV framework that was built into the single display products are now in our multi-display products. So you get a list of display 1 and 2, or if you're on the 300, you can also get 3 and 4, where now you can select input and actually benefit from that matrix that's built right into that box. Quick back of all of them, you have all HDMIs now. Depending on which unit you're going with, the 200 will have an HD-Base-T in, HD-Base-T out. The 350 will have 2 HD-Base-T ins, 2 HD-Base-T outs, but the control subnet and that built-in wireless presentation product now. Questions so far? Okay. Oh, same price as the 200 and 300 that we released last year. So the main topic that we bring everybody to today is talking about our AV over IP solution, our NVX. And some of the questions people ask is, why would you want to put AV over the network? Well, because it's flexible. You're no longer constricted to a proprietary backplane switch. So you're talking about an 8x8, you only have the option of having 8 ins and 8 outs. Now you can actually have 1 in and 20 outs, 1 in and 1,000 outs. It doesn't really matter when you're talking about putting it on your network from this instance anymore. So ports aren't fixed, and now a few to many are very cost effective. You're not buying this huge 128 by 128 switch to populate a single input and all 128 outputs. Now you're actually buying the same box and not spending that overhead on that box. What also it allows you to do too, and it's not noted on here, is it doesn't create a single point of failure except for that networking switch. Typically, people would have spare networking switches, but they might not have a spare 8x8 chassis if that were to ever fail. So now you're no longer going back to your proprietary hardware anymore. So now it allows you to put anything, endpoints can be moved. It's a network configuration. You just make sure that it's on the right network when you're moving around if you have multiple subnets. And then everything that we have, which is a 4K 60, 444, or HDR, depending on the content, over a single 1 gig connection. A lot of our competitors are looking for 10 gigs, and that's really a differentiator for us, is we have all of that over a 1 gig connection. So there's our lovely box. We actually have one at our booth as well to take a look at and play with. And I'll get more into the actual features and things on the box itself. But security, we're one of the only ones that I know of, at least today. Everybody does AES encryption, and everybody thinks, oh, it's great, it's encrypted, nobody else needs it. The problem is not everybody includes 802.1x, which is a huge security thing now, as people are putting that on their network to make sure a box that you install on your network is actually now allowed to be on your network. It's not just some rogue box there. Active Directory authentication for the user interface. So now you can secure that admin panel, since it is an IP-based product and it has a web interface to it for control and management. You now can control who can access that interface. And SSH and secure SIP are also what we have in there too. So even our control protocol between Crestron devices is also secure. So this really is a secure solution for you. We say no latency. I personally hate that marketing thing from us. It's no distinguishable latency away from our HD-Base-T scaling solutions. So if people have been familiar with our scaling DM products that we've had for a number of years, we're at the exact same latency as that. So there's no added latency. That's the piece to it. The way we're doing this is we're actually scaling and decoding the exact same time. We worked with Intel to create a proprietary chip that's going to be with us, and now we can actually do that and accomplish that without adding it. A lot of other competitors will have potentially lower latency, but that's until you turn on scaling. And as soon as you add scaling, it now changes that whole thing. So there's 2 box styles, but 4 overall SKUs. The DM-NVX 350 is a 2x1 switch in itself, and it's a chassis-based product. The 351 adds the ability of having down mixing there as well, so you can do multi-channel and 2-channel from the same box. The 350C and the 351C are now just chassis-based, so now you can go into an 8x8 power supply that we have for those boxes. We have a design guide in the spirit of The environment, we didn't bring any with us because it is kind of large, but if anybody's interested in getting a design guide, you just have to give us your email and we can forward you off the electronic copy of it here. But it does give nice, this is a terrible screenshot of it, but it ultimately does give nice flows. It's a basic setup that we have in that design guide for a simple solution, but there's a lot more of it there. So here, obviously here's the pictures of the chassis-based product. So it's a 2x1 switch, as I said. When you're on encode mode, any input that you selected is also looping out on that HDMI out. So if you have a preview monitor on the table for faculty to connect to or employees to connect to, it can get a loop out from there. In decode mode, it's just an output. Audio is both in and out, depending on which mode it's in. And there's actually USB connections on there as well. And what people don't realize about this USB over any of our other USB stuff is this is actually full USB. It's not USB HID that we've seen in the past. So now you can literally have a remote computer somewhere sitting in a NOC if you really wanted to and actually be transferring files over this protocol between the boxes. 2 LAN connections are sitting on it. They can either be used for failover, they can be used to daisy chain as a courtesy port, so you have one LAN connection and the other one goes to either a computer or even to another NVX box. These can be daisy chained together up to 64 times to create a video wall. So if your video wall only ever going to show a single image, that allows you now to actually have one LAN connection going to that video wall instead of having 64 in some other instances. So to give you an example of the topology, of networking, when you're looking at edge switching, so we're expecting these to be 40 gig uplinks, so they're 48 port switches. So on that type of configuration, you can get 40 endpoints on there. The core switch, well, actually that's where the core switch comes in. These all have 1 gig uplinks internally into there with a 40 gig uplink, which is looking it to the organization. But you can quickly expand this solution much more rapidly on a 1 gig platform than you could anything else. To look at some of our competitors without naming names, but you look at 10 gig solution, the same basic switching, but now you need 10 gig uplinks. You can only get 10 boxes, even if it's on a 24 port switch or a 48 port switch, because that uplink is really where it comes to fruition. If you start talking about enterprise core switches and you're talking about 100 gig uplinks, now it's much more expensive and your costs just flew through the roof. So it's an easy solution to deploy across your network. We have also this product called Xio. Xio is our network appliance that actually manages all the NVX endpoints on your network. There are 3 versions, which I'll get to, but ultimately it now gives you that basic DM tool that we've seen in the past, where you can actually see the matrixing ability right onto the website. So it's a central point to manage all of it. It manages your firmware. It manages where your routes are going, so you can actually control things centrally. Your processors that are in room can either control the NVX boxes directly, or they can bounce off the Xio Director as a way to centrally managing everything in the environment. This is where AV groups and IT groups really like to have the solution, and I do have some screenshots of it, so you can actually see what resolution things are running at, where things are going, and be able to control it on the fly, where if you have something that you're not programmed for and you're having an all-hands meeting, you could quickly deploy that across your enterprise from that GUI. So it creates a virtual DM switcher, basically emulates a traditional hardware matrix, which is basically what I described. It's simple, flexible, endpoint, built-in logging, which is huge. So now from a central perspective, it's tracking what's going on with all of your boxes at the end. If you lose power, a box fries, unfortunately, you now have the logs leading up to what's going on to that event, and you can actually get that. And now it's also fully programmable as well. So now, as I discussed, you can actually have your processors in the room bouncing up and controlling the Xio. So the Xio Director 80, this supports 80 endpoints and creates everything into a single domain. When I say domain, I mean a collection of NVX boxes. That could be a single room, that could be an entire floor, it can be a building. It really depends on how you want to lay out your environment. But in this unit, everything is under one domain. This is a great solution to basically replace, if you're just looking to do an 8x8 similar system, a 16x16 or a 32x32. It has 4 gigabit Ethernet connections, so now you can either cross subnets with it or use for failover, so you have redundancy. It's a single RU rack unit, so it's easy to deploy. It doesn't create a lot of rack density by its system. The 160 adds the ability of now doing 160 endpoints, by the name kind of suggests, but now you can also break it up into 20 domains. So here's an example of a domain. So we have conference room 133 at domain 6, conference room 231, domain 5, and it's just a collection of boxes which are all reporting back to that XIO. And then we also have the enterprise version. The enterprise allows you to get up to 240 domains and up to 1,000 endpoints. So now you can have one central connection. This also has expanded ports on it. It now gives you 6 gigabit Ethernet connections as well as 6 fiber connections, SFP adapter connections on there as well. So depending on your configuration, now you can cross subnets, you have redundancy, and now you can watch almost all, if not all, of your endpoints on a single web interface. Questions so far? No, I'm flying. I'm going much faster than I thought I was going to. Is anybody thinking about AV over IP right now for their enterprise? Anybody heard of AV over IP? Does anybody need coffee? So here's an example of our signal management. So it's very graphical. It's nice to see. You have NVXs that are being used as encoders that are now showing you where audio and video are going. It's letting you know it's at JPEG 2000, which is what the NVX products run at. It's giving you that it's at 2-channel audio, and it's also now letting you know what your resolutions are at your outputs for your displays. So you can actually see and track what's going on. So you can see resolution as it's coming in, how it travels through, and resolution going out. Since all of these boxes are scaling, they scale both up and down, depending on what you need them to do. Now, this is the education partner program. I know there's some enterprise folks here as well. There is a different program for that group. But to give an example, the A+ Partner Program gives any end user now access to all of our software, firmware, and our training institute. So now you can actually send employees down to New Jersey or Toronto, or your 2 closest offices, to actually get training from Crestron. You have an extended warranty. It extends from a standard 3 years to 5 years automatically, just because you're a partner in the program. You have a 5-year advanced replacement on your DMPS products. So now you call tech support, troubleshoot that it's a hardware problem. They overnight you a replacement, and you send the bad one back. You're not waiting for repair. You're not waiting for service to come out. You can actually do it yourself. Unlimited 24/7 tech support, and I mean 24/7. I called at 11 o'clock at night, and I didn't get routed overseas or anything. I just got called to an answering service, essentially. I left a message, and I got a call back within 10 minutes when I was working on a demo of mine internally. You have the ability of now RMAing all in-warranty repairs. So once again, you're not having to wait for that service technician and whatnot. Not that they're bad, but our service technicians are great. But companies are busy, and schools need things to work fast. Free design assistance from Crestron engineers. So if you're trying to design a system to create a hardware budget, we can actually assist with that and give that basically, you could even create a line diagram for you on that. Preferred education pricing through your integrator, and even a rewards program that gives you equipment, costs for travel, paying for the DMCE, or even swag. And the best benefit I feel is you get me. So what I can, ultimately, what is my value add? I'm not just a salesman that's just going to sit here and talk to you, but what can I help you with? So obviously I can help with a formal or conceptual design. I can do line drawings. I work in Visio, not AutoCAD, but it works for preliminary quoting for it. Questions about product use, obviously. That's part of sales. Is I'm here to answer your questions. Where I differ from a lot of other people out there is I actually understand the technology. I know the technology. I set up the technology, so I can actually tell you my honest opinion about things instead of always towing a company line. Having trouble with a dealer's install. You have a dealer. Dealers are very proud people. We love our integrators, but sometimes they keep coming out for the same problem that they're having issues with, and they don't necessarily want to call tech support because they're supposed to be the authority on knowing everything, and we love them for that. They need all the help, all the love in the world from us, but sometimes they need help, and a simple call to me, I can call into tech support, have somebody reach out to that integrator, just say, hey, what's going on? How can we help to help resolve that problem? Because anything that you guys see as a negative has a direct impact on Crestron since our name is on the box, and we want to make sure that everybody is satisfied with us as a company. Need help with a tech support issue, so you call into tech support and you're not getting where you need to go. You're sitting at level 1, they haven't kicked you to level 2 yet. You can send me an email, give me a call, and I can call in my director of tech support and say, hey, I need this case escalated. This needs to get done. And he'll have somebody reach out and actually get it done faster. Competitive pricing problem. We want to win, but we also want to earn your business. So if you're looking at competitor products from a pure standpoint of price, let us know, because we'll come back and we'll match or beat it in almost any circumstance. So no price is too rich for us to look at. The only person that can say no in our company is our CEO. So I'll take whatever you guys are looking at and ultimately create a Crestron equivalent and make sure that it's price competitive to what you're looking at, because we want to learn, we want to earn your business. Need help with training, and that's pretty much it. That was really fast. Wow. Question.